So I'm on the road. I drove to South Carolina because I'm trying to become the next senator of this great state now that Lindsey Graham is wherever Joe Biden is. But I noticed that it was July 13th and I wanted to revisit a story that I wrote 2 years ago in the aftermath of the assassination attempt on Trump. I wanted to revisit that and then see what else I've missed since I wrote this story, things that have happened, inconsistencies, updates. So let's get into it. When I first published this, it was called Everything We Know About the Assassination Attempt on Donald Trump. So it's been 2 years to the date. I remember being in New York, actually, at my parents' when I still had family in New York, and when my parents were still in New York. We were with a bunch of people, friends, family, extended family, random people, and news broke that someone tried to shoot Trump, and cheering broke out. It was very bizarre, but to be expected in New York. Very similar to what happened on the day that Charlie was murdered. My mother-in-law was walking around New York City on her way to work, and she found out Charlie had been murdered because someone in front of her on the sidewalk got the notification that it happened, and this person in front of my mother-in-law started to cheer and celebrate right there in the street. Insane. So ghouls exist. We don't know what the heck is going on with all this other stuff, but ghouls certainly exist on all sides. But it's been 2 years since the attempt on President Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania. But we know for sure that Thomas Matthew Crooks was the lone shooter on July 13th, of course. He was also one of 2 shooters, or maybe 3. Or he wasn't the shooter at all. He was a patsy. The real shooter was on the water tower. However, the water tower ladder was never used that day. The water tower was inspected and cleared with a drone operated by the county tactical commander. Whoever shot at Trump, it's been speculated by those familiar with Hillary Clinton's thinking that she kissed each bullet before they were given to the shooter. Hillary Clinton and President Trump are distant cousins, right? It's true. Thomas Matthew Crooks lived approximately 40 miles from Butler, where he dreamed of becoming an assassin. He worked at a nursing home. He planned the assassination attempt all by himself. He used encrypted messaging apps based in New Zealand, Belgium, and Germany. We don't know who he was talking to, but he was certainly talking to Iran, Russia, Israel, or one of our own federal agents posing as an overseas profile. Crooks had no digital footprint, but we know he Googled Lee Harvey Oswald and JFK. Isn't that interesting? No digital footprint, but we know he Googled Lee Harvey Oswald and JFK. The assassination attempt was politically motivated, but it also wasn't politically motivated. That's literally the news we were getting in the days after this attempt. Crooks was a registered Republican. He donated to Democrats. He liked to wear camouflage. He was a gun nut. He showed no signs of mental illness. He was depressed. He was trans. He preferred she pronouns. He was a white nationalist. He was a male feminist. He was anti-Semitic. He was Jewish. He was Antifa, he was MAGA, he was a Fed, he was under a spell, he was hypnotized into political bloodlust by CIA magicians. He was a remote-controlled assassin for violent deep state vampires. He was radicalized on the dark web. He was Mossad, he was Five Eyes, he was an actor in a BlackRock commercial. He was an accelerationist. He took SSRIs. He was a crazy loner kid fetishizing infamy. Thomas Matthew Crooks wasn't even his real name. He was 3D printed AI in a Department of Defense think tank. He did long-range target practice at the same range used by the Department of Homeland Security. The failed assassin's parents called the police, worried about their son, hours before Trump's rally in Butler. Crooks was able to fly a drone over the rally area to scope out the best possible options for an assassination. Leading up to the rally, the Secret Service failed to employ drones to help surveil the event. That's interesting, isn't it? Sounds like something else. July 13th, 2024 happened to be the first time Secret Service counter snipers were ever deployed to protect the president at a rally. This was, of course, just a coincidence. Crooks fired 8 shots in just over 5 seconds. One attendee, Corey Compertori, was shot and killed. Compertori was standing between the gunman and the president. 2 other attendees were injured. Investigators retrieved 8 shell casings from the sloped roof where the shooter took aim at the president. He was killed by the Secret Service counter snipers, or he was killed by the local police, or he never died because he was never alive. His corpse was handcuffed as it lay prone and bloodied on the roof. He was a cadaver that the Secret Service placed on the roof for a photo op. They said Crooks used a ladder to get to the roof, but he also might have scaled the AC unit. A man in a gray suit joined the Secret Service on the roof to view the failed assassin's dead body. The Secret Service thought the man in the gray suit was one of them. He told an agent on the roof to send all their pictures to a specific number. The man in the gray suit was not part of the Secret Service. No one knew him. He is still a mystery, or so he was at the time of this writing. There have been a lot of theories about that guy, but I haven't seen anything conclusive. They power washed Crooks's blood off the sloped roof immediately after the failed assassination. 2 explosives were found in Crooks' car. Sounds a little bit like the J6 pipe bomber. Biden's rhetoric, was it a pipe bomb? I forget. Just a J6 bomber. What did he? I don't even know that whole story. What he left. That whole thing. That's a whole other insane story that maybe we'll get into another time. Biden's rhetoric brought this on Trump. Trump's rhetoric brought this on Trump. President Trump narrowly avoided the failed assassin's bullet when he turned his head to view a chart about immigration. His survival was divine intervention. In every other timeline, Trump did not survive. This was proof we aren't in a simulation, but it's also proof we live in a simulation. Trump knew to turn his head because Baron Trump, a time traveler, had already seen all these events play out and knew to warn his father, as one does when you're a time traveler. But also, there was no bullet. Trump was not shot. If there was a bullet, it didn't even touch the president. Actually, the bullet hit a teleprompter. The shattered glass grazed Trump's ear. It was a head wound. It was a little scratch. Maybe it was just ketchup. President Donald J. Trump staged the assassination attempt to gain favor in the polls. Trump chewed a blood capsule when he fell to his knees and smeared it on his face. You know, Vince McMahon actually taught Trump how to pull off such a stunt. The digital collective consciousness manifested the assassination attempt, and the digital collective consciousness manifested Trump's survival. July 13th was another American fear ritual. It was a false flag. The man who photographed the bullet flying behind Trump's head, Doug Mills, also photographed President George W. Bush when he found out that the hijacked planes hit the towers, or hologram planes, depending on what you subscribe to, and the terrorist passports atop the rubble and Building 7 and thermite. You tell me what you think. Trump's raised fist was a pre-planned photo op. He's a reality star. This was the keeping up with the Kardashians of assassination attempts. When Trump fell to his knees, he was born again. God spoke to him. According to some polls, half the country wept in joy. Meanwhile, the other half wished that Crooks was successful. People reported seeing a UFO hovering over the rally when Trump was attacked. An image of a UFO above the rally circulated across social media platforms. People speculated if the UFO intervened to save Trump. You see, this is early disclosure seeding right here. Others believe the UFO was puppeteering the would-be assassin. This is the internet. This is what was happening on the internet. I can't help it. And others think the UFO was merely there to observe. The photo that circulated across social media platforms of the UFO was also a digital rendering of a fake sky with a fake UFO, although some find it curious that just a few months prior to the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, this area just down the road hosted a big UFO expo. It's true. As the assassination attempt played out in real time on social media, people questioned if it was even happening. Facebook and Google censored the story. Very smart and important people who celebrated when Alex Jones was sued for $1 billion for questioning Sandy Hook got whiplash from questioning the Butler rally shooting. I mean, it was crazy. You saw it. The Secret Service said they had everything under control, but also can't confirm anything. The local Butler police had everything under control too, but they weren't communicating with the Secret Service. At least 5 Secret Service agents had been put on modified duty. It was clearly an inside job, but it was absolutely not an inside job. It was gross incompetence, though it was also designed to look that way. A 20-year-old would-be assassin sneaking past the surveillance state is an indictment of the pandemic of incompetence, which we are trapped inside of. It also suggests how sinister players exploit the incompetence as a cover. I'm going to read that one more time. It also suggests how sinister players exploit the incompetence as a cover to perform public atrocities to satisfy their bloodlust. In fact, look at this commercial behind me. Uh-oh. I don't think I had any Pizzagate references in this. In fact, they chose to shoot Trump in a town called Butler to show us that even the most powerful man in the world can be reduced to a servant. Furthermore, Trump's life was almost robbed by a man named Crooks. In the time since the failed attempt on Trump's life, the failed assassin's body went missing. He was mysteriously cremated. The FBI did not authorize the cremation. The FBI said they did nothing wrong. The surviving parts of John F. Kennedy's brain went missing from the National Archives sometime after he was assassinated. And the CIA made the Zapruder film. Look, some people think RFK had JFK's brain. And if you look at the original Zapruder film that Geraldo premiered on his show, I think like 10 years after JFK was assassinated, it looks nothing like what we have today. In his report for the task force investigating the assassination attempt, Rep. Clay Higgins wrote, this is his words, on July 23rd, Crooks was gone. Nobody knew this until Monday, August 5th, including the county coroner, law enforcement, sheriff, etc. Yes, Butler County coroner technically had legal authority over the body, but I spoke with the coroner and he would have never released Crooks's body to the family for cremation or burial without specific permission from the FBI. As for the possibility of a shooter on the water tower, Higgins wrote, if there had been someone on that tower on July 13th, it would have to have been some top shelf operator way beyond anything I've actually seen. Regular SWAT operators or snipers would not have the skills and gear to quickly overcome the first 25 feet of no ladder and then climb the remaining 75 feet to the catwalk. And then climb the quite intimidating and precarious dome vent access ladder. It is true, he said, that the vent area at the very top of the water tower is the only point that would have allowed a clear line of sight to both Trump and Crooks's firing position. I do not believe it was possible, Higgins wrote, for a second shooter sniper to be on the top of that water tower on July 13th, nor have I seen any evidence that supports the theory of a second shooter. I'm not saying conclusively that there was no other shooter somewhere. Sorry, the ceiling fan just started trying to hypnotize me. Nor have I seen any evidence that supports the theory of a second shooter. Okay, I'm not saying conclusively that there was no other shooter somewhere or that no other conspirators were involved in July 13th, but I'm saying that based on my investigation thus far, there were 10 shots fired on July 13th, and all shots are accounted for, and all shots align with their source. Crooks's 8 shots, 3 plus 5. ESU SWAT 1 shot, USSS, Secret Service, Southern Sniper Team 1 shot. So then you have to question, do you believe Clay Higgins? Is he part of the story? I don't know. That's what I was thinking when I was writing this, But despite all this information, this is something I added afterwards and I was looking at it. I haven't seen this in a year, but I said, despite all this information, President Trump is satisfied with the briefings he's received from the FBI, Secret Service, and the DOJ. We'll probably learn more about July 13th, 2024 in 50 to 60 years. You know how it goes. I think this is something that we cannot forget. This was obviously a game changer of a moment. Everyone remembers where they were. It was a wild time, but it was nothing obviously very different from Kirk's assassination, because unfortunately whoever killed Kirk was successful, and nothing has been the same since then. But this was the beginning of some weird times too, and we had entered immediately. As it was unfolding, we entered post-reality, where anything can be true. We had been in post-reality for quite some time. The internet had accelerated that and became the reality buffet. So anything you wanted to look up and confirm, whatever bias, did you hear that? That was interesting. Sweet. Let's keep those off. I'm literally in South Carolina right now. So they're sending the fake birds after me to prevent me from becoming senator of this great state, which I will be doing now that Lindsey Graham is wherever Joe Biden is. But post-reality, anything can be true. Anything. And as these events were unfolding 2 years ago, anything could have been real. That's why, so much of this, when I was writing it, it was just, okay, this contradicts this, contradicts this, contradicts this, but people are dying on the hill that this is all their reality. And I was trying to hide my eyes because I'm so tired. I've been on the road, literally been on the road since 6 a.m. because I had to get here to start campaigning, knocking door to door, so I could become the senator of South Carolina. Okay, here's some things that were like updates since then. I have not read the book. I'm forgetting the author's name. There's a book about this now that I have. There's probably a few actually. I have not read the books. I'm sure there's a lot more information in there, but I figured since I'm doing this and it's been 2 years, we might as well throw some updates in here. Okay, so reports of Crooks firing 8 shots plus a local SWAT shot that may have hit his rifle, then the Secret Service fatal shot, total around 10, with forensics accounting for them. So that's a little number discrepancy. Drone issues. Crooks flew and live streamed a drone recon. Secret Service counter drone was down because the operator was on a customer service call about a broken Ethernet cable. I'm looking out at the audience right now, which is mostly just there is a frog somewhere. I have an Irish wolfhound waiting for me inside. A bunch of crickets that you can probably hear right now, and whatever fake bird they're sending after me. Homemade bombs in Crooks's car, one at home, plus a gray remote detonator with antenna in his pocket on the roof, and he had a 3D printer, which is probably how they printed him. He all of these so-called assassins, whether it's Robinson or Crooks, they look like they have been 3D printed to me. They look like they are made in a lab. There's something just like missing. People say NPC, non-playable character. It does feel like that sometimes. And we know that there are people right now in this world who are funding the headless human bodies for experiments. The same guy is one of the people funding Colossal Biosciences. The dog is having a nightmare. I don't know if that's picking up on the camera or not. I might have to show you him on here. Oh wait, you can see him. Let's see. He's not gonna walk over now. He doesn't want to be on camera. But he is huge. You can see, like, let me see if I can get there he is. See his tail? That's an Irish Wolfhound. My parents. All right. The ladder. He brought a ladder that morning, but ditched it, scaled using AC units instead. For communications, Secret Service missed over 100 local radio calls about the suspicious person. No joint command room. Body and cremation released to the family around July 22nd, 23rd. Cremated by them after autopsy. FBI didn't control the burial decision. That's the official story I'm getting now. Motive. FBI says he was just a lone actor, no clear ideology or foreign ties, mixed online searches, unknown motive. So, you know, and Corey, this dog is freaking out. I'm gonna go hang out with this dog. But Corey Competori's wife said the conspiracy theories are all fake.